Hey, how are you? Welcome back to PremierTalk TV episode 10. We have a full house tonight. All the gentlemen are here ready to talk about what happened in week 17. But before we start that, I would like to just do the due diligence of talking about Luton Town and the recent cardiac arrest that we unfortunately saw on pitch. And with Tom Lockyer, the captain of Luton Town, our thoughts and our prayers go out to the family tonight with the club, with his family, and everyone impacted by it. So I just want to start off by saying that. That being said, we do have a pretty big game that happened at Anfield this weekend, Liverpool versus United. We have a couple talking points. This is probably the biggest game that we did see in week 17. And I'd like to touch base on it. We got two United favorites here. Some that hate United, some that love United. We'll talk about it a little bit more. And then a Spurs and Arsenal fan. And let's introduce ourselves, gentlemen. Go ahead, Kelman.
What's up, everyone? Kelman here again. Excited to be back for week 10 or episode 10.
Yeah. Hey, James. I think he means when he says love and hate United, I think he means we're both of those because I also love and hate United. So it's a fun. Yeah.
That's how I took that.
Yeah.
Parker, Spurs fan. Do we have a 5 team title race this year? I don't know. It looks like that, honestly. So,
honestly, Parker with the pressing questions, which was unlike what Liverpool and United we watched. It was kind of a snooze fest. It was a team that couldn't score and another team that couldn't attack. Best chances created by United. I guess I don't want to speak to it too much. I'm an Arsenal fan myself. Kelman, James, what were you guys' take, and what did you see that maybe is United able to handle the pressure? I mean, hell yeah, it's better than the 7-0 at Anfield, but there weren't a lot of glimpses of hope there either. Thoughts?
No, there weren't. And I'll start here, James.
I know. I was going to go for it.
To be honest, though, when was the last time we've watched United play and it wasn't a snooze fest? I couldn't tell you. But yeah, it was just like Van Dijk said after the game. We just played for a draw. We defended all game. Varane looked good. Obviously, getting a draw is okay, but at the end of the day, I'm at the point where I want performances more than draws. Although a performance against Liverpool, no matter where you are on the table or how you're performing, is tough. So we'll take the draw and we'll move on to next game against West Ham.
Yeah, I think Varane played really well, which is almost like really nice to see. Better than, I mean, we didn't look great, but there were moments we had that there was one attack in particular. I think we built up through the back and it was like 3 passes through and we had the ball in their box. So, I mean, we can do things like that. I think Liverpool were a little bit poor. I'd have to think that Liverpool go into that game expecting probably to win, especially playing at home, especially against United. But I think we'll take. I mean, I don't know, Kelman. I'll take a draw at Anfield. I think because we're rubbish right now. So I mean, you offer me a draw at most away games, I'm probably saying at this point, which is terrible. So we'll try to be a little bit more optimistic and we'll see how we can do. But I think Varane playing well was also huge. Yeah.
I want to ask a question to you guys. Is Bruno better, not in the squad? Let me know. I have that question. I want to know.
With
Kelman.
With our current squad, absolutely not. We need him in there. But can we get someone better than him? I definitely think we can. But yeah, I mean, we have McTominay playing the 10, and that guy shouldn't be on a soccer field in his career. Not really. He's a good role player, but just like playing 90 minutes a game we don't want McTominay. Yeah. So yes, with who we have, I want Bruno out there.
I think Bruno's more of a liability than McTominay.
I don't know. I think honestly, right now, Bruno is probably one of our world-class players, honestly, or closest to playing on his day could be world-class. I think I feel this strongly about Bruno, actually. Kelman and I talk about this all the time because I understand he's very frustrating because he tries a lot of things and a lot of things that don't work out. But I honestly think most things positive go through Bruno. I think there's a reason he's a captain because he has a big status in the squad. And every time I see him, he's just the same reason I like Conor Gallagher. I think he just runs all the time. He's moving. He's tracking back for his team. He's never resting. He's super annoying because he whines. But man, I think he's the heartbeat of our team, to be quite honest. So I think we do need him in there.
Like if you put in all your effort, then other people are going to follow you, right? So I think that's a good quality to have like as a captain. But yeah, I think he just complains too much. I think
dude.
he'll put in a random tackle just because he's emotional, and
Sure.
it'll hurt the team.
So would you take Bruno at Spurs if someone was like, you can have Bruno on a loan? Would you take him?
Right now, just because of our midfield, yes, I would take him.
Yeah.
Because
what do you mean right now? You would have taken him 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. How you want to take
what are you talking about, right? I mean, we're talking about like present time. So
Well, I just thought it was interesting the way you stated that. I thought it was a great question you asked because
we're
I think
very,
Bruno's
very thin when it comes to midfielders. We have like Skip and Højbjerg as a backup, and that's just not good enough. So yeah, I would definitely take Bruno.
Sure.
But as a captain, absolutely not. I think
it's interesting.
He tries hard, and yeah, but I think he's just too emotional, and I don't know. He's a liability for me. We have too many liabilities already at Spurs. So another person that's too emotional, I don't think it'll work. But anyway.
Yeah, fair enough.
Parker, I totally agree with that. I think a good transition from what you stated is lack of depth, especially in midfield. Maybe Spurs are dealing with that, but I also think a team that didn't take their chances against United, Liverpool. I think that midfield is dissipated, man. I mean, McAllister's out. I still don't rate McAllister as highly as most people on this podcast. Slavozlai, or like what I like to call him, Slavalava Ding Dong. That guy couldn't connect a pass in the final third, which is insane considering all the praise I heard of him all season. It's like the one time you got to show up at home, you couldn't even connect a pass, and hence why you were probably subbed at halftime. And then Endo what do you really expect out of Endo? I don't think anyone expects all too much for that guy. And then who was the guy that they just got out? Gravenberch, right?
Yeah.
I think he went down with an injury.
Yeah, he did go down.
So what does that depth even look like moving forward? Is the midfield in crisis? I mean, that's probably the most vulnerable part of that team currently. It is worrisome, and this is a foreshadowing conversation that we'll probably have a little bit later tonight. That said, I think there's a lot of intangibles that are going on with Liverpool, whether the midfield being, obviously not having the depth, and then you got Darwin who can't finish a chance if the man couldn't even hit water if he fell out of a boat, man. I don't even know what I don't even understand what he's doing at this point. So it's tough because the guy has had, I think, 0 goals in the last 10 games he's had for Liverpool. It's tough. Is he that guy? Is he the guy you bought for 80 million? I think there's a lot of questions there.
I want to add to that is that they're like wingers. They're really selfish. Like Salah doesn't like to pass the ball. Like when he has the ball, he's going to shoot every time. Like he's not looking for Darwin Nunez to be open. He's really not. He's literally just looking at goal, right? And a lot of their players do that. They're kind of selfish, if you ask me.
I think it's partially. So what we're seeing now, maybe with Liverpool, is a little bit more, especially with McAllister, even though he's not playing right now. I think the buying of McAllister and Szoboszlai being like the kind of back and forth midfielder, I think they're more trying to control the game where they're not so transitional. So there's not like, they're not sprinting on the break with Salah, Mane, and Darwin Nunez probably would have thrived in that kind of system. And you see, because he can make really, really good runs behind it. He's lightning fast. So that's the system maybe that he would have fit more into. But I think Liverpool's midfield is kind of developing into this like control aspect, like I said, especially with McAllister, I think. So it just changes the way they attack. So like you're saying, Parker, I think Nunes hasn't been able to do anything as well, but it's because does the system suit him? I don't know. It's hard to say. They've been struggling. I feel like they're just super inconsistent. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Yeah, I think they need that like creative 10 in there to help get those chances in. Because everything is with the counterattack, which is why you're selfish, because you have one-on-one opportunities all game. So, I mean, you're going to take those and play alone.
They got Gakpo, McAllister, we already mentioned already.
Szoboszlai is supposed to be that attacking mid-kill.
See, I look at him more like just back and forth as like an 8, not as creative as like the 10 that he should be. That's the type of player I see him, because that guy covers every blade of grass. He does all the little things, but to be like a creative, like a James Maddison and Odegaard and De Bruyne creative, they don't have that. Not a lot of teams have that, but I mean, with how they play on the counterattack, you didn't see it a lot, and you never needed to see it. But in situations where United defend with 10 guys back, you need to be more creative in there, and they just didn't have that. They depend on Trent to whip balls in, and he played some very, very poor balls. He played a few good ones, but he played some horrible ones that just went out of bounds.
Then should Trent Alexander-Arnold play like a creative role in the midfield? I mean,
no, he has to stay in back because he needs the space. He could play in the midfield with injuries now, play as the 6. Maybe you'll put him in there, but you need him out wide to whip balls and into shape space. But yeah,
I think he is clinical though. Like when he's centralized on the goal,
he's the best goal scorer, Parker, for sure.
Yeah,
we've seen this for the last couple of games. I wish Baran was here that we could just.
Why are you laughing?
Because he scored a couple of goals. I don't know if he's their best goal scorer.
No, I'm not saying.
Look at him. Look who's more clinical in that box right now.
He hits a nice ball, but again, when you're in the pressure of being in the attack all game, you're not that clinical. He gets all this space and just has has time to take these shots. It's different.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's different ways to be clinical, and when you're playing forward or winger, it's way different.
So I wish we had Baran here because I want to know like who could be potentially, because obviously it's not Trent Alexander-Arnold. Who would be though? That's the question.
How is this still a question? They've had Mo Salah for the last how many years?
No, not a winger though. I'm looking at we're talking
about being clinical. They've had him for how many years, and he's top 3 in the Prem every single year in goals, and people still discredit him. I don't understand.
Yeah, you can't discredit him. That said, I don't know. I mean, games like this is where your superstars need to show up, right? This is taking nothing away from United defensively. I think for once I could sit here and praise Erik ten Hag because I think, as much as you guys are dissipated as well by injuries, showing up to Liverpool, showing up to Anfield away is a test for anyone. It's a game anyone can get embarrassed in. And the fact that you guys came away with a draw, especially, not firing on all cylinders, especially not having a healthy squad, dude, that's a huge positive. Looking forward, you would think that this is probably, I know you guys just dropped out of the Champions League, but looking forward, this is probably a good proponent to use for some kind of motivation, especially maybe with the squad that, honestly, you started a bunch of guys that are borderline unproven to a certain extent. Varane just coming in the lineup, Garnacho is starting on the side. You don't have Rashford, you don't have Bruno. It's kind of fantastic to see a young team like that or a lot of unproven guys like that gel together to get a result like this. I think that's huge.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Could be a turning point, and we're getting within the next month or so. We're getting most of our injuries back. So
that's gonna be huge.
It's gonna be huge. Obviously, it's gonna change the lineups and all of that for a little bit. So it could be a tough spell a little bit, but having everyone back is gonna be huge to finally be able to get a consistent lineup.
Yeah, no. And speaking of players coming back, obviously the writings on the wall was like the notorious MVP of the league, Kevin De Bruyne. He's coming back from Man City, but the shaky results they consistently have. This makes me think, hey, is this the city of old? I remember on old podcasts, I'm sitting here and saying this isn't the city of old. And the city of old at home would not be up 2-0 to a Crystal Palace team and tie 2-2. That is
I feel like that Man City always struggle against Crystal Palace. I feel like I've seen them lose or draw them a lot.
But that's every big team. Every big team away, James. Every big team away says Crystal Palace is a tough place to go and play. This was at home. You're up 2-0.
You're making excuses for a team that shouldn't have excuses. Close it out, right?
I think the cities of past seasons would have closed this out. Personally, I think there is a big miss. I think there's a big miss in the creativity within the midfield. I know that some people on this podcast think Kovacic deserves to be in a top 5 team. I think he's a borderline middle of the pack West Ham kind of player. I think
let me add to that for 1 second. Along with Kovacic, someone who I don't understand how he is as hyped as he is, Alvarez. They're trying to have him fill that De Bruyne role, and he's just not that guy.
Yeah. When it's been different now, right? Earlier in the season, he was like, it was different. He was doing it differently, and he was doing really well. And now it's kind of, he's like, he can't be that creative, right? You see, he can't be that creative on a regular basis.
He's not. He's I don't know.
There's no way that he could be their Kevin De Bruyne backup. You know what I mean? So, but to be honest, for me, I don't think City's in trouble at all. So I said this the second podcast we ever had. I think City will win the league. Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs. I still stick by that. I think when you look at City's fixtures, yeah, they've had, I think, 5 games without a loss, or how many is it? 6 or?
You mean
But
without a
really,
win? That's probably what we
yeah,
should talk about without a
No.
lost
win.
1 game out of the last 6, and a lot of them have been
Yeah.
draws. So they're just missing that one component. They're gonna figure it out. They're only 4 points behind. It's really not a setback at all for City. They've actually come back from a lot worse than that. I think even last year they came back from even a farther deficit than that. So, but I mean, Kevin
Was that there was the deficit because Arsenal was so far in front, right? They were so far in front. Like, how could Arsenal lose? And then Man City turned it around, right? That's the one. Okay, I was just making sure.
Yeah. No, I heard that one.
So when Kevin De Bruyne comes back, Holland is the one that will benefit the most from that. He's the one that he's gonna love. He's gonna thrive. So when Kevin De Bruyne comes back, that's another 20 goals in 12 games. So I mean, they'll be back. I mean, absolutely, they'll be back. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree. I agree with you. I think City are too good. Although
I couldn't disagree more.
Yeah, because you would, but
why?
I think they are very good. They still have the same players. They still have Pep. I think their system is really good.
Yeah.
They'll be there or thereabouts. It depends on like certain big games. I think we talked about this last week as well. It depends on like Arsenal versus Man City. Who's going to win that one?
So,
I think those are the big ones.
So are you saying, DJ, that Jesus is going to score enough goals to win the league and Holland won't, even though they're going to have Kevin De Bruyne in like 3 weeks?
I would argue that, well, I mean, that's just, okay, that's a weird argument to bring up. I don't think Jesus is the kind of player that's going to win you the league up top, but I also think...
Okay, then you're going to lose the league then. Is that what you're saying?
No, because you had Harry Kane up top, but you guys couldn't even get in the top 4. So what are you talking about?
No. I'm talking about right now. Are you guys actually think you're going to win the league with Jesus up front?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have hitmen on both sides. I think our wingers are better than theirs. I think
you could definitely improve in January and get a striker like Tony or something. But you guys aren't going to win the league with Jesus up front. Sorry.
I think this is a conversation we might have next podcast in regards to what we need and who's out there and who's available. That said,
but
I do believe
at the same time we got to talk about who's winning the league because that's the whole point of everything. City's going
right, and I'm telling you right now, Man City won't be in the top 3.
Interesting.
Sorry, my bad. They won't be in the top 2. They could be 3rd. I think this Man City team is weaker than we've ever seen a team. I think shipping Gundogan was tough to lose. I don't think Bernardo has as much productivity as he has on the wing that he does in center midfield. I think, yes, you can't replace Kevin De Bruyne. I don't think there's a replacement out there. Parker is, like you said. But look at the recruits they brought in, right? Kovacic, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, the first episode probably, Kovacic is so overrated and doesn't do anything with the ball except for keep possession. There's no antidote to curing, or not curing, but I guess maybe that play on words to them not being able to score a goal. You don't bring Kovacic in. Nunez, the guy that got from Wolves that was supposed to be a maestro from Portugal, the guy can't even figure out how to even get playing time. They're shipping off Calvin. The midfield is desolate, man. And when Rodri isn't on, which doesn't happen often, don't get me wrong. Hey, when Rodri isn't on, which doesn't happen often, don't get me wrong, the guy's world class. He was the one. He was playing. The end of last season, in the beginning of this season, he was playing the Gundogan role by getting that critical goal, and that's what Gundogan did all last season for them to win games. Mm-hmm. Right now, what we're seeing with the team is we're seeing a back line where Ruben Diaz isn't as safe as he used to be because John Stones has been injured. They don't have that partnership right now, and he's having a hard time creating a partnership with someone. No one's talking about one of the biggest flops in the Premier League, Guadavajal, or however you say his name, because I'll tell you what, I couldn't tell you if he was out there or Ake was out there or who else was out there because he had the biggest name coming in, and he really hasn't done anything. He hasn't had any outstanding performances. I think it's been a lot of recruitment that is underperformed. Then again, gentlemen, we're only 17, we're going into the 18th week this season. You still have time to turn it around. We all know what Pep's teams do after the new year, right? So I'm not discounting them out of it, but I do think this is the worst Man City team we've seen in 3 years. Because there's not a Man City team that we could say at home would be up 2-0 on a team that's mid-table Crystal Palace and let that go as easily as they did. And that's exactly what we saw. I'm looking at the foundations of that team. I see an aging back line. I see an aging leadership, and I don't see where you go further other than getting guys back from injury that have to play themselves into form. And by that time, if teams finally start firing, is it too late?
I didn't know you were so passionate about Man City. I love it.
I'm
they're
sick and
still
tired
winning
of
the
this bullshit,
Champions
dude.
League. I think they're still going to win the league and the Champions League. That's my opinion. But I'm not going to go and spend 15 minutes talking about it. I just know
that's a bold prediction. Coming off the treble let's be honest, it's hard to stay motivated. So it's nice with City how deep they are. So you just rotate the lineup and force people to stay motivated by removing their spot
competition, right? Competition.
Yeah, competition.
Exactly.
But everyone's talking about this bad form. They've played Liverpool, Chelsea, Villa, and Spurs 4 out of those 5 games. 3 of the top 5 teams in the league right now. And then Villa at home are unbeatable. Chelsea on their day can be one of the best teams in the league. On their day can be one of the best teams in the league. And you're getting draws out of those games. And they're all back to back to back. And you have Champions League games in the middle of that. And we talked about it before. Come December, when you're playing multiple games a week,
that's when the squad comes in handy, right? Right around now. It's right around this time.
Yes, you want to win these games, but to get draws out of them is not the end of the world. The Palace one I give you was not expected and should never have happened. But
actually, funny enough, I kind of want to piggyback off this conversation because I think in previous title runs that we've ever had before, it's all about kind of the small table fights, right? It's always the top 4. How do you actually compete against each other? That decides who's going to win the table, right? Look at the relegation. How you guys compete against each other? That's who's probably not going to get relegated, right? It's all little small fights within, small little groups within. And if you actually do look at City's results, they haven't won a single game against, let me look at it. I think the top 5. So look at Arsenal. They lost 1-0 to Arsenal. They tied Liverpool. They lost Aston Villa. Tottenham, they tied. I couldn't even tell you what they did against Newcastle. But, that said, the top 5, they haven't got a single win, and we're halfway through the season.
It's hard to argue against you, DJ, honestly. You got the facts. I think we're really focusing it on, what's happened in the past and what Pep Guardiola can do and what we've seen based on experience. But what you're saying, we can't argue it. You're right. They don't look like the same team. But I still think they have that something special that Pep can do, and Pep can kind of motivate them. And all you got to say is Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland together are just a match made in heaven.
Yeah, two players that are injured.
ADB will bring this team back, and we're going to forget about this conversation and realize how good they actually are.
Well, I won't forget about this conversation because I'll be proved right. But that said, we should probably move on to match week 18, a little bit of preview. And we do have some tasty fixtures ahead. We got Spurs coming off of 2 wins. The guys that look like they're back, kind of. Some people going into form.
Maybe.
Some people, Basuma can't stay on the pitch. Then you got Everton, 4 games in a row, looking pretty good under Diceball, even though Diceball isn't looking too shabby these days. You got Liverpool versus Arsenal. That's probably the Mecca game of it all. Villa, Sheffield, and West Ham and Man United. So where do you want to start? Let's start with Spurs and Everton. Parker.
All right. So let's start with Everton's form right now. I think what Dyche has done to them after their deduction is just nothing short of a miracle. I honestly do. I think they used, the 10-point deduction, would they have done as good without the 10 points deduction? I don't know. Maybe they used it as a catalyst. I don't know. But I think they are really in the right direction. They got some really tall players that can do really well in the air, and when you're talking about set pieces and stuff, and that's the one thing I think that they can really hurt us in. We don't have a lot of tall, big players that can just defend those kind of balls. So when I think about that, that's one way that they can punish us. But when you think about it, what do they have, 16 points right now?
Yeah, 60 points. And
then if you add that 10 points, that's 26. That's we're Brighton are, right? And right above Chelsea. So that's pretty impressive for what they've been through. So they definitely have a lot of they have a fight in them, they could be down 2-0, and I feel like they might be able to come back, just because they have that like don't give up mentality. But Dyche, I mean, he could be manager of the season, honestly, for what he's done. I mean, I know it's early, but I mean, Unai Emery, actually, to be honest, is definitely.
Here we go.
I'm sorry, I got to talk about him, but they could be top by Christmas. What the fuck? Crazy. So,
yeah.
But okay, so yeah. But when it comes to Spurs against Everton specifically, I think we're just too tough for them. I can't see Everton beating us, really. We got Romero back, and we haven't lost since he's been back. That's usually the case. He's a good defender. Yeah, he's a bit rash, and he's a liability. But when he is in there and he doesn't get a red card, we usually win. So we're still losing or missing Madison, a couple other players, but I still think we're better than Decore, McNeil. Who else do they have? Like Jack Harrison and all those guys.
Parker, do you have a prediction for us?
Yeah, I think Spurs are gonna win.
Give me the scoreline, baby.
Scoreline, okay. Let's see. I'm thinking it'll be like 3-1 Spurs.
I know that I have inputs that I want to put, but I would rather Kelman and James go first.
Okay.
Go ahead, James.
I think it'd be a good game. I think it's interesting because I think they're like two different styles, because obviously Everton a little bit more direct. Spurs like to play on the counter or just like free-flowing football. I think Dyche tends to make his teams very organized. So I don't think there'll be like a lot of space for you to exploit. But I think it'll be very interesting. So I think Andrew's a good manager. I think he's smart. So I think he'll think of something to do. So I'm interested to see like how they battle against each other. I mean, they're riding high. That's the only reason I think they could do well. I don't necessarily think Everton are a good team. I think Spurs should win. I mean, I'd agree with you. I think if it doesn't get into a shit fight, then you might be okay. But if it gets into a shit fight, I think you're going to lose. So that just depends. I think Dyche teams thrive in that kind of like when it rains and it's all muddy and everyone's slipping over and banging into each other. That's like Sean Dyche is king. So if it goes that way, I think I could see something spicy happening. But besides that, I think you probably have too much. What do you think, Kel?
I feel the same. I think that high line is going to work because I don't think Everton have speed to get behind. I think that back line in the high line will be fine. Hoping for a draw. I don't want the Spurs to win. I don't like them, and I want my money. Hoping for a draw,
not the bets you've made.
Hoping for a draw or a loss, but I do think Spurs are going to pull it off, especially at home too. And Everton just lost. They had a midweek game too. They just lost.
Oh yeah, exactly. I meant to mention that as well.
Yeah,
they're gonna be a little bit battered by the time they meet us. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
DJ, let's hear your thoughts. I know you have a lot to say. You're giving us all dirty looks.
I think it's probably going to be a draw, personally. The reason why I think that is because I think Bissouma is incredibly influential in that midfield. I think whether you guys know it or not only is he suspended for 3 games, but actually suspended for 4 games because he's gotten 2 red cards before Christmas draw. So it's 4 games. And then, by the way,
is that what it is?
Yeah, and then we won't see him until February because the guy's going off to the African Cup of Nations.
Now we won't see him until February, or hopefully if they lose the first round, mid-January. But yeah, no, you're right.
Who does he play for? Is it Mali?
No, well, he was like born there, but I think he plays for a different team actually.
Regardless, Tala Shalahabi won't be seeing you for a while. I still think Sarr is by far the inferior center midfielder other than him. Yeah, I think Bissouma is way better than Sarr. That said, I don't think that midfield can cope without the talent that you guys have.
Sorry. I'm just going to say Sarr's not going to replace Bissouma.
No, he's not, but he plays next to him and he's inferior to him. So
will it be Højbjerg?
Yeah, that'll
be Højbjerg in the back, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Højbjerg is decent. I don't think
He can
he's
hold
bad.
his own. He's
I
not,
think
he's not as good as Basuma, but he's not going to be like, I'm going to give up, he's not going to just be like Skip back there or something,
Right. No.
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't rate Ollie Skip. Hey,
Oh, at all. No, me either.
I don't think he's very good at all. Sorry, DJ.
no, it's fine. Defensively, I think Højbjerg's probably better. I also think Basuma has the ability to skip past the player in midfield, and
Yeah,
I don't
I
think
agree.
Højbjerg does. I
Yeah.
think that with James Madison out, I think that's definitely exactly what you guys need on your attacks. But you're not going to find that from any other position, and you're not going to find that from Sarr, at least under control. So Onana and Decore is going to each you up in the midfield. I don't think Richarlison's going to get on the end of a header with Keane, Tarkovsky, and Godfrey sitting in the back line. I honestly, as good as Porro is at placing the ball in the box, I just don't know where the goal is going to come from unless it's Son doing a.
Can I interject really quickly?
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible that Richarlison he seems like one of those players that needs to be super motivated or something like that? Do you think he's playing against Everton? I didn't think it ended too well there because he wanted to leave. Do you see him just like showing up on the day and bagging a couple or getting involved at least?
Like, I can't see him doing that.
He seems like that kind of guy, like a streaky kind of guy like that.
Exactly. I totally agree. If he's going to score against anybody, it's going to be like his former club because he just wants to prove a point because he's just that kind of player.
You don't see it at all, DJ?
As much as I love storylines, along with the rest of you folks, I agree with Kelman. The streak's over. The guy's gotten lucky enough. I mean, the writing was on the wall when the guy couldn't score in his first 30-some games.
Yeah, I mean, all the goals he scored, like you kind of have to score. It's not like he hasn't scored any like worldies.
And sometimes he doesn't score those ones either.
And I don't want to spend too much longer on this, but there are people that can get behind your back line. Iwobi, regardless of what you guys think of him, he has been on a hot streak recently. He's athletic. He can get past the back line, and also he does have a finish on him. I think McNeil, anytime he cuts in, is dangerous because he starts unlocking a lot of space for Calvert-Lewin to play off of him. I've seen your defense, and ever since Van der Ven is injured, it's a whole different story of what that defense could be because, as everyone knows, Spurs in the first 10 games were incredible before injuries. Now, what are we looking at?
But we haven't lost since Romero's been back because he's just kind of like that great.
Hey, that's the next guy to get a red card and suspended for another 4 games.
Who is this Iwobi that you spoke of? He's on Fulham.
Oh Lord.
Huh?
All right, next game.
You just confused me because that's who I was thinking of at first too, and then I realized he was gone. I was like, I don't know if anyone has pace anymore.
To be fair, DJ, he gets behind the back line for Fulham.
Yeah. That was my thought initially.
So when you guys play Fulham, it's gonna be great. Damn, that was actually pretty bad. Thank you, Kelman, for that. All right.
I had to check to make sure I wasn't.
Yeah. Anyways, so back to what I was saying. That was going to be a draw. Let's move on to the talking point, probably of match week 18, Liverpool versus Arsenal. I would like you guys to go first.
Can I interrupt that with a different one first, and it'll be short, and then end with that one because that's a good one to end on.
Yeah, I get that.
Let's do that. I have I'll talk about West Ham and United. Just short, quick. My thoughts on that game. Like I mentioned with the Spurs, West Ham have a midweek game too, and they play tomorrow, so that could be that's a quick turnaround again, and they play Liverpool, so you're going from Liverpool straight to United. I don't think United still have the firepower, but that Liverpool game, like we talked about, could have been a turning point. So I just see a low scoring game. 4 of the last 5 games I think ended 1-0, and I think this one will too. I'm hoping United can pull it off, so I want to go with the United 1-0 win.
Yeah.
James, touch on it.
Just really quick, it's kind of just like when I see us play West Ham, it's almost like West Ham playing West Ham. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's no real quality there. It's just kind of like.
I disagree. I really, really like West Ham. What is their one player that they have?
Kudus.
Yeah, Mohamed Kudus. Is that his name? Oh my God, he is a footballer.
Then they're even better than us because we don't have one of them.
He's got Ward Prowse when you come to like free kicks and like set pieces. They got Jared Bowen, which I think could be like the player of the season. I mean, they got a lot of players up there, man. I really like West Ham.
He's a good player. They're a tough team. Moyes struggles against United though. Moyes is always
I feel like the game's never good, is what I mean.
Yeah.
Like they might have decent players. I just think the game never turns out to be like a great spectacle of football. It just tends to get kind of stop start. But not to say that they're not a good team.
Well, like Parker said, stop start benefits them because they have Ward-Prowse
Of
taking
course,
pieces.
they want to just bomb it in the box in a way.
Yeah.
So it's Souček is all elbows, man. I would hate to play against that guy.
Bony.
My God, he's like always such a bony fucker. You know, he's like always like this and like jumping up and like that. Yeah, God, no, I hate it.
Yeah. Just my 2 cents of the West Ham Man United game. I think United are going to win this game. I think anytime we expect West Ham to get a result, it doesn't happen. Regardless of what their form looks like. Kudus is on fire, but I mean, let's be honest, Paqueta has been their maestro in midfield. He's been on fire recently. I don't know what it is about West Ham, but anytime I bet on them, anytime that I think this team's going to pull out a result, they don't.
Yeah.
Man United can pull a lot of positives after what happened at Anfield. It's a United victory for me.
Yep. And they're better on the road this year than they are at home too. So I don't think that's going to influence the game much for West Ham.
Sure.
I guess, James, you want to touch on your so anticipated matchup?
I just wanted to briefly mention Villa, just because I feel like we have to talk about them now because they're doing really, really, really well. And they're like Parker said, they could. I mean, results go their way, and they do continue to do well. They could go, even higher. So, just wanted to touch on them in Sheffield because they're bottom of the league, and I think the one part of winning the title or challenging for the title we've seen Villa do is beat top teams, but the one thing we haven't necessarily seen them be consistent with is beating all the other teams they should beat. And I think that's just a classic one. Bottom of the table, have to win that game. Like, that's inexcusable to not win that game when you're trying to push towards the top. So we all think they can do it. So I just wanted to touch on that and mention Emery. Is he that kind of manager that can perform when they are favorites?
They got to win away from home too. That's a big thing for them. They win at home every time. It's like Liverpool.
Yep.
They won't lose at home, but they just gotta.
I'd say that team is built for counterattack, so it'll be interesting to watch them, like you guys alluded to, play a low block. Sheffield is notoriously going to play a low block, especially after kind of the results. Ollie Watkins isn't a guy that's going to sit on top of the box, be able to turn you that well and get a shot off. I think he's a guy that's rather be played in behind.
I think he's evolving. I would agree, but I've seen him kind of do those things now. I think he's becoming more complete, but I do get what you're saying. I think he's got that little twist and turn, that little shuffle and shot. I think he has that in the locker now. I think we're starting to see it more and more.
Honestly, potentially, but I haven't seen it enough to say, hey, that's a consistent thing, right?
Yeah.
Same with Diaby. Diaby's a player that wants to get in behind.
Yes.
That said, it'll be interesting. I mean, there's not a lot to talk about in this matchup. We obviously expect Villa to get the result. Anyone's getting a result these days against Sheffield. So at this point, we expect it to happen. It'll be interesting if a low block is what stops this Villa team from this absolute insane route that they just worked up the table. All praise, as Parker, you always allude to, Unai Emery.
For the season, Unai Emery.
You got to remember, though, according to DJ, Villa at home is playing 14 on 11, so should be an easy one.
That's right. I forgot about that. They get the refs.
Yeah.
Oh, that's unfair.
No one talks about that enough, honestly. Maybe you just have to dominate the game. I guess City couldn't say the same, but all right. Next to the biggest matchup, and arguably so far this season, the biggest fixture that we have 1 versus 2. Arsenal versus Liverpool. This is at Anfield. Never an easy place to play, as our United fans and our United podcastees could attest to. What do we think is going to happen? I'll end with it. Parker, please go first. I know you're biting at the chomp to say some shit.
Well, the thing is, let's look at it realistically, right? Liverpool just don't lose at home. They just don't. So, and I heard a lot of Arsenal fans, our defense is better than Liverpool. And it's like, how can you say that? You guys have literally conceded the same amount of goals. So I don't get that. I just don't get it. So you guys are not better defensively, Arsenal. I think it'll be a really good game, but Liverpool will 100% win this one.
Wait, Parker, don't stop at defense. Keep breaking it down. How about midfield?
I mean, okay, so we're talking about Liverpool. Yeah, we're talking about midfield. I think Rice is he's just so good for me. I think
Player of the season, mate.
yeah, he's right up there, honestly. Yeah. He's just too good at interceptions. He can read the game. He comes in when you guys really need him, and he's so consistent. But I think you guys dominate the midfield. But when it comes to defense, I just and then when it comes to attacking, Liverpool are gonna definitely be ahead of you guys for this, and they're at home. Yeah, Liverpool are gonna win this one.
I'm excited to watch this game. The snooze fest last week, seeing two attacking teams like this is going to be an entertaining game. Liverpool are finally going to be able to play on the counter because Arsenal try to keep it. Both teams try to play. The midfield right now with Liverpool could be an issue, but I still think that given chances on the counter, they're going to finish. So I think it's going to be a high scoring game. Like a 3-2. I'm with Parker. I think Liverpool, but I think like a 3-2 Liverpool win, or maybe even like a 3-3 draw. But I'm gonna go 3-2 Liverpool win.
Bet the over.
Okay.
Bet the over.
So I'm with DJ on this one. I think Arsenal will win this. I think Liverpool. It's going to be a battle of the midfields. I think, and I think Arsenal are going to destroy Liverpool's midfield. And I think they will dominate the game from there. And then I think if you were going to talk about Liverpool getting chances, whatever, they're struggling to score unless it's Salah. And I know Arteta is a crazy, weird, mad scientist. So he's going to have some sort of plan to deal with Saka. So he doesn't have to drop back so he can be higher so they can deal with Salah. So I think they're going to be able to do something on the counter or control the game in some way. And I think I think he's going to out-tactic Klopp, to be honest, and I don't think Liverpool are up for it. I just don't see it.
Well, James, do you think because they didn't score against Manchester United, they're really going to just put some goals back against Arsenal?
No,
I mean, to be fair, as much as I think, I don't think that it doesn't really work like that. You know, I just don't believe that they've got goals in the bank because they didn't score. You know, I don't think they're going to want to score anymore. They're playing at home. They should be just as motivated.
They scored 7 against you guys at home before, so
that's what I'm saying. So they should be motivated to score in this one too, every game really. So I just think Arsenal are going to have too much, to be honest. And I disagree. I think Arsenal's back 3, depending on Zinchenko, like we talked about his 1v1 defending. They're back 3 on that side. I don't really like Ben White, but they're definitely 2 centre backs are absolute class. So
I don't think their D is amazing, but I think having Rice in there makes them all better just because he
can't go through the middle, right?
Can't go through them because he just breaks everything up. I'm excited for the Rice and Szoboszlai matchup. I think Rice is better, but just because they're both all over the place covering so much.
I was going to say they're going to be like running around in circles, like kind of trying to get free. It's going to be an interesting battle, yeah. Yeah, it depends.
Mr. Arsenal, let's hear what you got for us.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be much of a matchup. I think one guy's extremely overrated and the other guy's worth his freaking weight in gold. That said,
we will know on Sunday.
I mean, from a neutral perspective, I'm looking at the table. I'm looking at this matchup. I'm looking at basically everyone's form. I think this is a bigger game for Liverpool. I think this is a must-win for Liverpool. In my opinion, I think Arsenal would be okay with a draw. I think they'd be more okay with a draw, but I think they'd be okay with a loss because Liverpool there will be 2 points ahead of Arsenal, and they still have to come to the Emirates, right? I think if Liverpool lose at home, Arsenal going 4 points ahead of them is a little more detrimental than if Arsenal would have lost. So I think this is a bigger game for Liverpool. Liverpool under pressure, we've seen them. A lot of times they do produce. I do think it's going to be a battle of matchups, and I just don't think this Liverpool team has it, especially with the depth that they don't have in midfield. I'm a big proponent. If you win the midfield, you win the game. If you shut off, I mean, don't get me wrong. The most potent attack in the Premier League has got to be either City or Liverpool, and just the amount of talent they have on top. But if you start cutting off the distribution they have to the attack, then what good is the attack at that point, right? I think De Zerbi put it best. He said Arsenal is the best team in the Premier League because we've never suffered the way we suffered. Yeah, I'm sorry. He's a better tactician than you, Parker. But this will be a great game. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a high-powered game. I bet the over as well. I don't think either defense is going to show out, but I think at the end of the day, Arsenal is hitting form. What they did to Brighton was embarrassing to Brighton.
Can I ask you a question about Arsenal really quickly? Like, how big is Odegaard's performance for you? Because I have been like in big games, I've seen him just kind of like be there, you know, not that he disappears, but he doesn't like from my captain and from like a midfield presence. I want someone to like grab the reins and kind of do something. Like, do you think he's got that? Do you think, you know, are you expecting that? Do you want that? Has he done that before? Blah, blah, blah.
So we mentioned this performance being kind of a matchup of positions, right? I think whoever plays better, Szoboszlai or Odegaard, is going to be the key to who wins this game, without a doubt. And I do think this has to be when Odegaard has his coming out party against big squads, because let's be honest, Indo is not the same task as Rice is.
But his coming out party, he's been at Arsenal for how long now?
Well, I'm just saying, but he's also
big games, though. Coming out in big games.
Yeah, coming out in big games is what I'm saying. He could beat the hell out of Brightons. He could beat the hell out of, you name them, right? But like, let's talk about.
He's
big
still
games.
young, is he? He's 23, 24.
He's 24.
Yeah. So now's the time.
Same as Szoboszlai, but I'm just saying at this
okay.
point, I think whoever plays better in that game is the key to unlocking who's actually going to put more goals, right? Anyone can say that. I just also think when it comes to key matchups, Rice is way better than Indo. Like if I'm any attacking mid, I know who I want to play.
Oh,
yeah.
Because he's consistent. You know what you're going to get out of Rice every single time.
Yeah.
And I think with these two teams, like you guys are both missing like a striker. Like you guys really need
one of us bought a striker for 80 mil.
Well, I
right?
mean, yeah. Okay.
He just went missing on his own.
But he's not.
that guy took a holiday 10 games ago.
I think this will be a really, really good game. I think this might be one of the best games because like you guys have a really good midfield and like defense. But I mean, yeah, sure, you guys have really good wingers a piece, but just that striker piece you guys are missing. So it's like I think.
I wonder what Arteta's going to do with the inverting of Trent. Like, because I'm sure he's going to do something. I wonder what he's going to do.
I feel like Joe Gomez is going to play outside back and Trent's going to play in the middle.
He's got to, because dude, every single time the Arsenal's played Liverpool, Martinelli has cooked Trent.
Yeah, he has, right? Yeah, it's been like 3 times in a row. I remember that.
Gomez is physical. He's strong. He'll go into tackles. He's gonna make if that's what they do. I think he's gonna hurt Martinelli.
Yeah,
I
agree with that.
Like cause him issues.
Kel, that's a great shout. I could see Klopp doing that.
Yeah,
which would be interesting. I mean, that brings a whole different dynamic. Creativity from a pivotal role deep, right? We haven't seen that in a Liverpool midfield in a long time, so it'll be interesting. Yeah. That said, I agree with James. Arsenal's going to win. I know that we're getting on overtime here at the podcast, but up the fucking gun, boys. That's all I got to say. Up the fucking gun. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure chopping up with you boys. Premier Talk TV, episode 10. Next episode, audience, ladies, gentlemen, whoever it may be, we are going to talk about transfers. We're going to talk about what team needs the most. What do we need in key positions? I think it's going to be integral to our teams moving forward. And I can't wait for you guys to join us. So thank you so much for joining this podcast. Episode 11 is just around the corner and up the fucking gun, like I said.
Yeah.